Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with this week's episode of The Five Insider. You got here myself, Joel Beya, not Joel, and of course, Mr. David Ornstein joining us. How you doing, sir? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Frazzled, but ready to go.
And you've been a busy man. You've even got a new mic this week, huh?
Now, slight change of location and technology, but the same substance, hopefully.
Always good to have you. Okay, cool. So I want to start off with the big news this week, right? Tommy Tuchel, right? He's been sacked from Chelsea. Now, I said it before on other shows. I said, you know what? There's something that's a little bit weird going on over there. We did a video with Rio and people watched it. And a lot of people in the comments have been saying they cannot believe what has happened. Now, I just wanted to ask you, what led up to this? Obviously, we know that Chelsea haven't had a good start, but has there been some sort of shouting match or something that had happened for him to receive that alleged 10-minute call? What's going on behind the scenes?
Well, I think the decision was relayed to Thomas Tuchel in person rather than a call, but it was a short meeting. And I think it came as a surprise to him. To me, the decision was not a shock, but the timing was, because I thought they would have let the dust settle a bit after the defeat in the Champions League. And, maybe if things had continued to spiral, then you take a decision during the upcoming international break, or maybe even try and get through to the World Cup. But it seems that the Chelsea ownership felt that once their decision had been made in their minds, there was no point hanging around and delaying the inevitable. It's better to do it sooner rather than later and then move into the future. And to answer your question, I don't know of a bust up. I think that's probably a bit sensationalist and dramatic, but there was definitely tension building over a period of time. And I would also say that that tension is pretty understandable and not uncommon for a situation like this, because we've got a new ownership at Chelsea. We've got a manager who has steered that club through the sanctions that were imposed upon Roman Abramovich and therefore on Chelsea. Abramovich's reign ended. The Boehly Clearlake reign began. There were departures for Bruce Buck, Marina Granovskaya, Petr Cech, Guy Lawrence, and just recently Scott McLaughlin. The last man standing from the previous regime pretty much was Thomas Tuchel. He's had a lot on his shoulders with owners who have not worked in football, soccer before, not in European sport from what I know, and certainly not in the Premier League, whereas he's a vastly experienced and proven top-class manager who would have wanted his say over a lot of areas. The team that he's been running, that he won the Champions League with and qualified for this season's Champions League too. The recruitment, and I'm not saying the only say, but I'm saying a say, because he's very experienced and well-connected and has worked in these markets before. He would have wanted to be training more than he probably was able to while he was helping the new regime settle in. But they would have had their own ideas as well, because they are very successful sports owners in their own right, just in the States. They're very successful business people in their own right. And you don't get to that stage without making decent decisions, having a good grasp of how things work, what doesn't work. And so given that they'd committed, £4.25 billion to this takeover, they probably would have wanted to have a significant influence over matters. And from what we hear, they were starting to see behaviours that they weren't so keen on. They were getting soundings from the dressing room that set some alarm bells ringing, a bit of a disconnect, that people were noticing Tuchel to be detached somewhat. I'd always argue that there are two sides to every story, and I'd like to know what he would say about that sort of thing. He's had some issues on and off the pitch, but that's for him to deal with. And I'm sure that the leadership at Chelsea have made their own mistakes too. They're wet behind the ears when it comes to this world. And so they won't have done everything perfectly. They won't do everything perfectly in the future. Pretty much no ownership does. And they may not have made the right decision on Thomas Tuchel, but it was their decision to make. It's their club. It's their pathway and project that they see running, what do they want for the next 5 to 10 years? Is that something in their mind that is led by Thomas Tuchel? If so, continue and try and get through this tricky period. If not, it's probably best to make a change. And it seems that he wasn't satisfied with everything either. And although he might not have seen this coming, perhaps it was best for all parties if it was going to end this way at some point, to end this way now, and they can all move on into the future.
But it's a bit difficult because they've spent so much money on these new players, and it's just, he hasn't even had the chance to work with them. Your Aubameyangs, hardly worked with Koulibaly. It's for me, there was, even though they didn't start great, there was potential there. You've got your Raheem Sterlings, you've got your Conor Gallagher back. It's for me, it's too soon. And I hear what you're saying, and there's probably behind the scenes stuff that's happening, and it's probably best to part ways now. But isn't there some sort of, like in a normal 9 to 5, there needs to be a proper grounds for, someone to leave? It just feels like there's a huge injustice. And I'm an Arsenal fan, but I just think many fans across the globe do respect Tommy Tuchel. I think the question, what I'm trying to get to is Graham Potter nailed on to be the next manager? Yes or no?
Well, on your first point, I think Chelsea and the people that have sacked Thomas Tuchel do respect him, and I've got the utmost respect for him. And I take your point in terms of recruitment. You look at Koulibaly, Sterling, Chukwuemeka, Cucurella, and of course Aubameyang, who was the player that Thomas Tuchel has worked with successfully before at Borussia Dortmund, and he wanted that signing. It wasn't only him that wanted it. There were members of the Chelsea hierarchy that wanted it as well. He's a proven striker and they need goals. So these are club signings. You don't sign just for one person. But of course, most of us feel it probably would have been fair to give him a bit longer to work with them and bring them to fruition. But if they had made their decision, then that's where I say there's no point hanging around, because irrespective of what's happened before now, we've seen how football works, and they will possibly think, for right or for wrong, that another manager can come in and do what they want to be done with these players that, let's not forget, they have bought with their and Chelsea's money, not Thomas Tuchel has bought them. And it's the responsibility of the coach to train them up. Thomas Tuchel will have felt that he would have done a good job. I feel from his track record that he would have done a good job, but they believe that someone else will do it better, and they're entitled to that opinion. So now they turn their attention to his replacement. There are reports breaking as we record this that Graham Potter has reached a verbal agreement with Chelsea to become their new head coach. So it feels like a matter of when, not if, we will see Chelsea announcing him. Just before coming on to this, I was told maybe in the next 12, 24 hours, Chelsea will hope to have their new man in place, which means prior to the Fulham early kickoff on Saturday. And the way yesterday unfolded was that pretty soon after the news broke of Tuchel's departure, the name Potter was coming to the fore in the conversations we were having. Also, Maurizio Pochettino. And then when you make further inquiries, it became clear that the approaches to both men had already been made. It's obviously much easier with Pochettino because he's unattached at the moment. He's not in work, having left PSG. And I got the sense from speaking to a number of contacts that it's something he was willing to listen to, and he was open to the possibility of discussing becoming Chelsea's new head coach. But equally, we know that they have really strong admiration at the top of Stamford Bridge to Graham Potter. He is a manager that has, as we understand it, caught the eye of Todd Boehly, Bedad Egbali, the new leadership at Chelsea. They've dealt with Brighton this summer over the Marc Cucurella signing, with Levi Colwill going in the opposite direction. They've dealt with them again over the transfer of Billy Gilmore from Chelsea to Brighton and Hove Albion. I reported on a dinner that Todd Boehly hosted for his fellow Premier League executives after one of the Premier League shareholder meetings to sort of meet and greet, and it emerges that actually he did some negotiations there and got the ball rolling on the Carney Chukwuemeka signing with Aston Villa, and also the Cucurella signing with Brighton. And then Brighton's chief executive, Paul Barber, has been on the radio talking about how impressed he's been by Todd Boehly and that they've got good communication despite being in tough negotiations, that he's a really impressive businessman and operator. And so the name Graham Potter would have been not a massive surprise in that sense. And the longer the day went on, it became clear that he was the top target and that he was travelling up to London to hold talks. And it seems that those talks have gone well, and provided the legals and the formalization of this process all goes to plan, he'll be the new Chelsea head coach. And what's quite interesting here is that he had a chance to join Tottenham last summer, and he's probably had other approaches as well because he's done such a good job at Ostersund, Swansea and Brighton. But despite some conversations taking place, he didn't join Tottenham. They didn't pay the release clause. I don't think Brighton granted permission for formal talks. Make that what you will in this world, but that was granted by Brighton in this case, and that's when things felt different. That Chelsea made the request, they knew the release clause, Brighton granted it, and at that point, I'm not sure there's any going back. And although he did go back to Brighton physically, he's not held his news conference on the day we record this, which is fair enough, to be honest, given the circumstances. And it seems that Graham Potter will be the new head coach of Chelsea. Mauricio Pochettino considered. Ruben Amorim, the head coach at Sporting Lisbon, was considered, we're told. And Chelsea think very highly of him. It might be one that they revisit at some point in the future and certainly keep tabs on. But if all goes to plan, Graham Potter is going to be in that dugout at Stamford Bridge for a considerable amount of time to come. Well, certainly he and Chelsea would like to think, but we know their reputation and track record. So never say any certainties on duration of managerial tenure.
Whatever happens, he will be leaving with a big paycheck. We will know that as well. Looking on to Manchester United now, I've been reading in the reports this week, that Cristiano Ronaldo will be reinstalled into the Man United started 11. Now, they're obviously playing Real Sociedad tonight at 8 p.m. UK time, GMT. Do you think this will be his role from now on, the Europa League striker, or are they going to look to, rotate a little bit more up front? Because obviously, it's a long campaign season, and I'm sure Rashford can't do it alone, up there by himself. What do you think the stance is going to be now with Cristiano Ronaldo?
Well, I don't mean to sound like Erik Ten Hag, but he would point out, and he has pointed out, that Cristiano Ronaldo missed pre-season. What he hasn't pointed out is that he also wanted to leave. And so that provided a double distraction and disruption to Ronaldo's preparations for the new season's, Manchester United's as well. And so it's no surprise to me that he's not commanding a regular starting place, although he has started this season, just hasn't happened in the last few games. He's come on, he's done okay when he's come on. But football changes quickly, Joel. It wouldn't surprise me if Ronaldo has opportunities to start in domestic competition as well as the European games. And there'll be times where he's a substitute, or, we don't know about his fitness for every game. He might not be involved on occasions because he's late into his 30s now. And with everything that's gone on, I don't think there are any guarantees either way. But the only certainty for the time being is that there's no transfer window open. And so barring a player cancelling their contracts and becoming a free agent, Cristiano Ronaldo will be at United until at least January. And I think United would expect him to be there beyond that. They said throughout the summer that he's not for sale. And although you don't know what they would have done privately if a strong offer had come in from somewhere, you suspect they may have looked to sanction his exit, but it didn't happen. And so they've got an asset on their hands, one of the best attackers in world football for many years, scored 24 goals, I think, last season. We know the threat he poses when he plays. He's still one of the biggest star names and brings a lot more to United off the pitch as well, and to the fans and sponsors and commercial partners, etc. So look, I don't think he is going to be, the main man for Manchester United. I don't know if there will be a main man, because they don't have a frontline, a headline striker. They didn't make a signing in that position within the market. So Marcus Rashford has done really well recently, and we hope that he does even better, because for club and for country, even for the neutrals like me, or for non-Man United fans, you want to see him do well for England. And he's a top talent who has so much to offer, and it's really nice to see him recapturing his form and his smile in recent times. And those 2 goals will do him the world of good against Arsenal. Anthony Martial had done well before his injury. Jadon Sancho's doing better. You've got Anthony there as well. He's got all manner of options for these attacking positions now. Even the younger player whose name escapes me, Anthony Elanga. And then just behind them, you've got
Bruno. He could play a false nine.
Christian Eriksen. And therefore, Ronaldo will have to, it seems, be part of a rotation. And again, I said in the previous answer about Chelsea, we don't need to always sensationalise things. I don't think that's a massive drama. If United are winning, their fans will be happy. The players, the staff will be happy. Cristiano Ronaldo looked pretty happy when Anthony scored the opening goal against Arsenal. Of course, he'll want to be starting. I do think he'll start on occasions, but maybe everybody needs to appreciate at this age, this stage of his career, with everything that's happened beforehand, he may not be the guarantee that he was once in the past.
Man, thank you very much for that. I want to look at Arsenal really quickly. Now, obviously the loss against Manchester United made me realise how important of a win that was for the United team and the fans, because I feel as if they were kind of playing it off like, it doesn't mean anything. But, it feels like you speak to some people and they believe that that was Arsenal's first test and we failed it. Have you had any inside information when it comes to Arsenal's preparations, or what Arteta's been like following the Manchester United loss?
No, I haven't. And that's largely because other stories have taken over, like the Chelsea situation. But it's also in no small part down to the fact that I think things will be pretty calm. They've obviously got a Europa League game to focus on, and they're still top of the league. They're back in domestic action over the weekend, and they hope to continue their positive momentum. 5 wins out of 5. Got a lot of people talking and excited, but realistically, it may be better for this young squad to not have that winning run round their neck, and keep them on their toes. Of course, they would have preferred to win. I'm not denying that, but it might not necessarily work out to be the worst thing. Certainly a learning curve in how to deal with those massive games against big opposition with a crowd that's really up, how to control a match, show maturity, especially at 1-1 when they'd fought their way back, deal with adversity of having the opening goal disallowed, and then United taking the lead, taking their opportunities when they come, which Manchester United, for instance, are doing at the moment, very clinical, which maybe Arsenal haven't been quite as much. But I don't think there will have been any alarm within the camp. I think there'll be natural disappointment and a lot to improve on and work on, and concern about injuries, the existing ones. Then I saw when I was pitch side at Old Trafford, Emile Smith-Rowe pulling up in the warm down and being led back down the tunnel. So there's little, worries there. They didn't manage to get the central midfielder signing they wanted before the deadline. So they'll hope that Thomas Partey can come back as soon as possible, because Mohamed El Neni is going to be out for a fair while. So yeah, it's going to be an anxious time for Arsenal, but also one that is full of optimism and promise for what this team can do. Because what I saw at Old Trafford on Sunday was a team of really high quality, and certainly in the first half and at periods of the second, before the second and third goals, that Arsenal were dictating the tempo, the play, the rhythm. They had the ability to break United down and pick holes, and they did have control. But it was just when United showed that real grit and character and force to break Arsenal down and then tighten their grip on that context. That was a real show of a team that is coming together under Erik Ten Hag. They're really bonding, and for now, it's more about the sort of personality, the spirit, fighting until the end. Later, the quality will come. And I think with Arsenal, what you're seeing now is that they're in their quality phase already because they've been together for longer under Mikel Arteta. They need to now bring some of that character, some more character. They do have character to the fore, some resilience, learning how to get even a draw out of those big games, and then pick off a win when you can. And I think that will come. And I think they're on the right path. And that's why Mikel Arteta will be calm in the wake of defeat at Old Trafford.
Oh man, that was a bit of a difficult listen, but I do agree with you on a lot of points, David. Listen, I want to say thank you very much for joining us for this week's The Five Insider, and just please make sure you enjoy the football this weekend, but take a break as well because you've been a really busy man. But as always, we are very happy that you come on for us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Okay?
My pleasure. Always enjoy it. And I'm hoping for a break, but each time I go to take one, a major story breaks, and then we're back on here, which is no problem at all. Let's keep it going.
Thank you, David. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.